I am Hercules.
But something that happens after this whole thing is, God, every time I come out with anything, I say it's one of my favorite bits of the movie. But Arnold takes her away, takes her out for business.
I
And
love the line too, like, do you have a girl back home? Well, you know how it is.
very Arnold,
That does feel like that's like they didn't know the cameras are on. That's just Arnie actually pulling the moves on Deborah Loomis.
Well, 5 or 6. But a bear escapes the zoo.
Oh my God. Can we talk about how we go from the breakfast scene and then it just cuts to, it's like, are you going to go out with him? Yes, I am. And then it cuts to seemingly a B, C grade horror movie set at a zoo. We're just panning across at these caged animals and it's like, holy crap. Why is the tension so high? What is going on? And then you hear that mandolin and suddenly the tension is gone. But like, what is with these genre shifts where it's just like, hey, just for a minute, let's get serious.
The director's flexing his muscles.
That might be. It's like, I want to get work after this. I have to show that I can have every genre in the movie at the same time.
You've got comedy, you've got drama, you've got romance, you've got horror, everything.
It is baffling, though, that it's like this. I'm pretty sure she was engaged to Rod.
Yeah, but he's a loser. It's a bit like Cool as Ice now.
He's a loser. He got his ribs broken.
Yeah, he got his ribs broken. And it's like, so you're going to go out with the guy who did it? Yeah. I mean, I guess it is just like, women love a bad boy, I guess. And who's better than Hercules?
Drop the zero, get with the hero.
Oh my God, there it is.
Oh, maybe now we cracked it again. Cool as Ice was just ripping off this movie too.
It was indeed.
We got freaking Kenneth Branagh. Who else was ripping it off?
Taika.
What Taika's coming? Oh my God.
Disney.
Maybe that's why maybe he can't watch the movie because he's like, it's too painful to know how much our work has been ripped off and we never get any credit.
That's probably it.
And this bear, it's the fakest looking bear I've ever seen in my entire life.
I literally had to rewind to see the sign on the cage to figure out what I saw it.
What am I looking at?
What is this meant? Is it meant to be a wild boar? I don't understand. And I rewound and saw that it was a bear and was like, I still don't see it.
And he beats the living crap out of it as well with his fists, which made me
It's
think...
not a restraint. It's a full-on assault.
Yeah.
Horrible sequence.
Yeah.
It did full on, actually, weirdly, again, not that I have to pry everything back to Batman, but like, it genuinely reminded me of like the vengeance scene where he's just like, he keeps wailing on that one dog. It's like, Hercules, stop, he's already dead.
Stop, he's already dead.
The movie ends with a bunch of bears that like go to like an arena, and then they're just like, why are you doing this? And the bear's like, because I'm Hercules. And Hercules goes, oh God, I've gone too far.
I think you'll find I'm Hercules.
And then meanwhile, the soundtrack to this entire horrible sequence of him beating a bear to death is the girl screaming. Helen is just screaming, get him! You gotta get him!
It's a beautiful, beautiful moment. And it made me think of Conan the Barbarian, where he just punches that camel in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Arnold has a thing about beating up animals.
That's why you never see him in movies with animals much. Maybe that's why. It's like, no, you gotta keep that cow away. He'll just insist upon a page one rewrite to make sure there's a...
Huge plus that they put a person in a bear-ish suit versus a real animal.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I can't decide what's better.
I think
and what's
Arnold
worse.
wanted to go full Revenant with it. He's just like, yes, I want to fight the actual bear. The insurance will not cover that, Arnold. I'm sorry.
Hey, back in the 40s and 50s, I think, wrestling would often have wrestlers fighting real bears.
Yeah.
I will say also, the whole thing with the bear brought to mind a very famous scene from another Hercules movie. Mm-hmm. The one starring Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, yeah, classic.
Where he ends the fight by throwing the bear into space.
Like, that literally leaves the planet.
It's the only real way to win a fight with a bear.
But just knowing that, like, Pumping Iron was Arnold Schwarzenegger versus Lou Ferrigno, and Arnie trounced him. it kind of feels
Right.
like Lou Ferrigno is like, I want to beat Arnie. It's just, I'm gonna play Hercules.
I'm gonna make a better Hercules than it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw the bear into space. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if Arnie came back with a sequel. It's like, I threw the bear up into Olympus.
Into the sun.
Add him to the list of people who ripped off Hercules in New York.
Exactly. Screw him. Screw him.
I think at that point, though, by the 80s, and I feel really bad for saying it, but like people would say that, like, Arnie, you hear Lou Ferrigno did this movie where he played Hercules and he threw it into space, and Arnie would be like, who? Like, I don't remember that guy. It's like,
What?
I'm too busy trying to have a bigger gun than Sylvester Stallone in all my movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, we get as well the mob then want to control Herc, don't they? He's a wrestler now.
The mob want to control everything.
They want to.
Then it goes into Spider-Man. It's the beginning of the origins of Spider-Man. Now he's going to become a wrestler.
So this is where the Macho Man Randy Savage comes in.
Yeah.
Bonesaw's ready. It's so fascinating because this starts to resemble. This is when it starts to take on a movie where I'm like, oh, fascinating. It starts to resemble like these 1960s boxer films that were kind of addressing like abuse in the sports community. Stuff like The Harder They Fall and like these like sort of like classic almost noir films about like sports
Like that
bettors and managers.
Simpsons episode.
Just like that Simpsons episode, that 1960s neo-noir Simpsons episode. And
Yes.
it's so funny because, not to skip too far ahead, but I'm just like, oh, I actually, weirdly enough, cranked a bunch of these out when I was, watching some stuff on the Criterion streaming service. Fascinating. This is going to be so interesting. And I wonder how they're going to film, if they're going to harken back to like 1960s, fighting films and stuff. And it turns out that the competition they do is not a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a wrestling match
Y'all,
either.
I can't begin to tell you.
I think they literally refer to it as a wrestling match at some point, and then they just do a weightlifting contest instead. Insane.
Perplexed by that. And when they're just like, how could he possibly have lost this? I'm like, that's actually super feasible, dude. Like he this is like a whole thing. Like weight training, it's not how you look. It's like there's like techniques and also the muscle is internal. It's not like exterior showcase muscle. It has a lot to do with your core, not just your biceps and your triceps.
Well, that's why some of the strongest people in the world, you might look at them and think, oh, they're not in good shape.
Yeah.
Sometimes they look, dare I say, I hate to use this word, but
Rotund.
fat. Rotund.
It's
Yeah.
not because you're a big muscle boy. You're not like Hollywood chiseled. You're not like Hemsworth. You're a like the strong, like the mountain, right, from Game of Thrones. Is like the strongest man.
Yeah, and in order to get showcase muscles, you have to starve yourself. Like you literally
you have no water.
Yeah, it's super dehydrated, super starved. Like you're only eating like boiled chicken and rice forever.
Well, that's why these people prep for the show. They don't look like that 24/7. They're like, I have a show coming up, so for the next couple of months, I'm gonna, hit it hard.
We had a kind of example too of it in Batman and Robin, because you had Jeep Swenson's Bane, this big guy looks like he's made out of water balloons, and then Arnie, the showcase muscles next to him. It's like, one looks like he could actually do something to you, and then Arnie's like, well, that's it's impressive to look at, I guess. But
well, that's the thing. It's a different approach.
I'm sure that Arnie could also kill me. Don't get me wrong.
100%. Yeah, but in case Arnie's listening, I'm not starting anything. Okay.
No, I'm a little weakling nerd. Arnie could crush me like a grape.
They mentioned one of the other wrestlers though, and I just love the name Biffer Benson.
Biffer Benson.
It sounds like a character from like the Beano or something. It's just an old-fashioned kind of like. No one gets called Biffer these days.
Well, there is a wrestler at the moment called Biff Busick.
Oh God, is his dad Biffer?
It could be, but it's close.
I mean, I hope it is.
Of the East Coast Biffers?
How did you know? Are you close?
I will say also, Omar, I got really hung up when you were talking about streaming all the 1960s neo-noirs of thinking like you were going through the Criterion channel saying like, oh, it's The Harder They Fall, Ministry of Fear, Hercules in New York.
Right, the classics.
I mean, I have the Hercules in New York Criterion Blu-ray.
Yeah, you just got the steel book with a little C in the side.
Yeah. The authors on this film, let me tell you, next level.
But with this whole mob thing, they kind of want to buy Pretzi out, and
so wait, what is we can't keep getting caught. I'm so sorry, but I was like, I'm not gonna rewind. I'm not gonna pause and rewind. I'm just gonna bring it up when we're recording. I just have a question. What exactly is the contract? Because Pretzi goes, I don't have a contract.
He's just his
and he
friend.
goes, even easier. It feels like an improv scene where it's just like, hey, Mr. President. It's like, oh, I'm not the president. Well, then you're doing the president's job now, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess. Like
This movie's liberal use of contracts that don't make sense is incredible, because you have a similar thing later on when Pluto shows up and he's just like, sign this contract for me, and I'm like, what is this contract for? Literally, why does he need to sign something? There's nothing that he could, whatever, it's fine.
You've got to keep it formal, above board.
I mean, there's no contract with Pretzi. It just really seems like, why the gangsters make him do anything? It's just like, oh, so we don't have to talk to you at all, Pretzi. We can just go
You're
talk
just
to
a
him.
friend. Okay.
They like literally give Pretzi like a thing to sign, and Pretzi's like, I don't have ownership over.
I don't have
this
legal
person.
authority to do this.
I'm not his manager. Literally, I'm just Pretzi. I sell pretzels. I get them from Food of the Gods, and then I go to the harbor. I go to the Brooklyn Promenade, and I sell pretzels. And
You
they're just
guys
like,
want a
sign
pretzel?
this. He's like, why are you making me sign this? Like, he's like clearly so perplexed in the scene.
It's brilliant.
I wonder if the Food of the Gods people are wondering, like, where is Pretzi? He usually comes in and we got a whole delivery for him right here.
This is 25% of our profit margin. This is really going to tank us.
And it was this scene in particular where I noticed something we talked about before. I really picked up on audible fans, cameras, equipment.
And it changes like mid-scene half the time, too. It just goes from, like, whatever ambient noise is in the room by that mic is like, okay, we're cutting to this person talking now, so now you're getting a completely different type of ambient noise next to them. I just, like, my editor's brain was just wanting to get the tracks in Audacity and go, like, noise reduction.
Yeah.
Take the sample. Yep.
Yeah, we know it well.
Oh, man. But the thing is,
who
too,
needs
like,
room tone? You know?
You can really tell there's only one mic, because the amount of times, too, where someone will be speaking and they're crystal clear, and then the person next to them will reply to them, and it's just like, it's about a mile away.
Yeah.
And like the boom mic guy's like, I'm not leaning over further. Like, get the hell out of here.
Well, we get another hilarious bit of production, I think, just after that, because Zeus, that's when we cut to Zeus again, and he summons Nemesis.
Hey.
You know, he's going to send Nemesis to punish Hercules, but, you know, he's kind of persuaded, hold her back a little bit, Mercury's going to go. But this entire scene, not only did it feel like a community theatre production, the acting, but Zeus's beard in this scene, right? You can see the glue. You can see the foundation.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'd go so far as to say every scene with the gods that is outside of, the mortal realm did feel like theatre. Absolutely. And I would love to watch the play that was Nemesis going and talking to Pluto, to Hades. But I can imagine myself trapped and very upset that I'm only halfway through the play that is Olympus.
Well, the director's work is mostly theater, right?
Yeah, a Peabody Award-winning
that
theater.
makes perfect sense. Yeah, that explains everything.
It was weird to me, though, because every time one of the gods would suddenly become a character, like much like I didn't realize that all the women around Zeus were like goddesses. I thought this was just like his, this is like all the women he just keeps around because it's Zeus.
It is Zeus, yeah.
And then as soon as Mercury started speaking, I was like, I thought that guy was an extra. Like, he didn't strike me as being like, this is one of the featured players of the movie. I was like, I thought he was just some dude in the background.
He's a god Dael.
You kind of want to go to him like, sit down, man. Let the actors deal with it. It's like, no, I'm one of the main characters of the movie now. Like,
he gets his whole own character arc. It has a conclusion.
And his own helicopter for some reason.
Dream.
I'm actually unfamiliar with Nemesis. Like,
same.
So Dael, with your myth, can you give us a quick? Who is Nemesis? What's the deal? Because I was flummoxed a lot of times, like when they bring up like Pluto, and I'm like, I thought it was called Hades. Like, what's happening?
Yeah,
here?
you're
like,
not wrong, Niall.
Yeah, these things are. I'm sure again, I've watched Dale's videos. These people have several names, but I'm like,
no. It's because the
Hades?
Romans decide to rip off the Greeks and change the bloody name.
Noted hacks, the Romans coming over.
The Romans are the original hacks.
100%. They didn't even. They changed everyone's names except Apollo. They were like, we like that name. That sounds appropriately Roman. We'll just keep that one. Yeah. It's like. It's tricky because she's one of those characters who doesn't show up much in like stories as far as I'm aware, but she is she's just this kind of figure that is alluded to, and not terribly differently from this depiction, which is insane, because she really is. She's just kind of like this figure of retribution and vengeance.
That was kind of the vibe I got. Like every time they came back, like, we're going to send Nemesis, and I'm like, dun, dun, dun.
I literally when they said call forth Nemesis, and the music did its little like boo, and there was almost like a foggy quality as she walked up slowly. I was like, damn. You're taking this serious. Like, you're calling for Nemesis? That's a big deal. Like, I forgot for a minute that this was a bad movie that had no idea what Greek mythology was. Like, for a second, I was just like, oh, no.
How dare you say that?
He's in trouble now.
I'll admit, I'd never heard of Nemesis. I mean, I like my history and things, but I don't know everything. And I hadn't heard of Nemesis. I just assumed it was a word.
Really?
Yeah. I'm assuming it's where the term Nemesis comes from.
Of course.
There are a huge number of words that, if you go back far enough, are just Greek gods.
Of course, yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Hygiene, that's one.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think it's a word. It's a Greek god.
Hygeia, right?
Yes.
Was it someone who was like really into like brushing their teeth and combing their hair and stuff?
She was one of the million children of Apollo, right? And so Apollo has medicine under his belt. I mean, there's this whole thing with Asclepius, but let's not get into it right now. But medicine ultimately falls under Apollo's purview. And so then when he has all these divine children, they start trying to find ways to make them all be something to do with medicine. But it kind of works backwards. As medicine developed and they ended up with all these different areas of medicine, they were like, well, must be a daughter of Apollo.
Oh, I like that.
Like, she's actually like really popular in a way because like her symbol is at a lot of pharmacies, right? Am I wrong in saying that, Dael? It's the cup with the snake wrapped around.
Oh,
isn't the cup of Hygeia?
Oh, maybe.
Like, where they and that was like to gather like the snake toxin, the venom, in order to turn it into medicine.
See, because
the staff itself, there's the Apollo staff with the wings, and then there's the staff with the snake, the one snake wrapped around.
We've got the weird staff with the snake.
Let me just very briefly say that there are two staffs, one technically is the rod of Asclepius. That's a single staff with one snake wrapped around it. Then there's the staff that is the sort of the caduceus, which is kind of it's complicated because it began as a symbol of Apollo, but then it ended up being associated with Hermes because they did a trade, and that's how Apollo got the lyre and Hermes got the staff, but it's associated with medicine. And the reason that happened is because doctors in ancient Greece would travel the roads, and Hermes was the god of the roads. It's all very complicated and stuff. The bowl of Hygeia is a thing. I am familiar with it. I think my point of confusion is that I have never seen a pharmacy with the bowl of Hygeia.
Well, you would call it a chemist with the bowl of Hygeia.
Oh,
yeah, sure.
That's what... Then again, it depends. I don't know, because here, most of them are chemists, but I work for the National Health Service. Mm-hmm. So because I work for them, we call it a pharmacy.
That's interesting. See, here I think that the generic term is chemist, but we also like my local chemist is a pharmacy. It's in the title. We know what the word means. I just think that, Anyway, that's an interesting cultural difference. I think America might be the only ones who put the bowl of
as
Hygeia
usual,
out there.
America's weird. Let's be honest.
Speaking of
that's
weird,
not wrong.
But so we have Mercury visits Hercules. Yes. And at one point, again, just unfortunate thing of Arnold's pronunciation, he's going on about like, oh, your father wants you back and stuff like that. And Arnold says, he's always negging me. And I was like, he's always negging you? I didn't know the word was
that old. Yeah, I didn't realize it was a 70s term.
I was like, whatever you and your dad get up to up in Olympia. Or Olympus.
Again, the Greek.
Yeah. I mean, those gods get bored up there. So it's like, it's eternity, man. You gotta entertain yourself somehow.
If you live forever, inhibitions go out the window.
But yeah, and then it's basically Mercury comes all the way down there, and it's just like Hercules is like, no, There's a whole big. They rented the helicopter for the day. They did the whole thing, and just for him to go, no, I'm not coming back. Like it's like, all right, I'm literally gonna just jump out the window now. Then
I genuinely like how the gods present in this film when they come to our realm.
Love it.
It is so. It's such a cool thing that like Eternals kind of plays with a little bit. A tad of like, how would you fit in? And like, you know, one person was like, I'll just be an actor and I'll be an actor for forever. And it makes sense. But with this, I love it because they just sort of enter through different portals into our realm. It's not like the Bifrost, you know, spitting you out at the end of like a big old laser blast of rainbow. It's like one comes in a helicopter, one enters through
Pluto coming from the subway.
The subway
is so freaking cool.
With like a smarmy like briefcase kind of gentleman.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Because he's coming from below as well. Like it makes sense that the gods coming from Olympus are having to fly down in some capacity. And then Hades is just like, I've come from underground.
Yeah.
I did like the effect too. Then when he leaves again, all the lights go back on. I was like, it's atmospheric. Like it actually kind of works and stuff. But there was a scene
mad because it shows that there was like some room for world building and like clever ideas, and this is like the only expression we get of it.
Well, and also, other than Pretzi, he's probably the only other guy who's trying really hard.
He feels like he's the only other actual actor in the movie, whereas everyone else feels like
off of people. Yeah.
I love him.
He's very.
If you had to put down though, Dael, and taking aside the actors' personal lives, James Woods versus this guy in depictions of this character, who are you going for?
Look, I've been thinking about this since watching it. I have thought about nothing else.
That James Woods version of Hades is like one of the most beloved Disney villains of all time. Like
it's true, and I love it. But at the moment, and this could change once I get a little bit more distance from the movie, but right now, this depiction of Pluto is my favorite pop cultural depiction.
Oh, nice.
I love it. It is so good. He revived me. I was struggling to watch this movie.
It felt like as you're in a barren desert, and this guy came with a drop of water.
Because you know what it is? It's like I'm a myth nerd who has an acting degree. So it was just like, it was like I was being punished for something. And then you hit this moment where they're just doing clever little references to mythology and it's being performed well. And it was like finding an oasis. It was, I
can see that. He is 100% trying. And I don't know if it's his influence, but yeah, the character at least seems to understand a lot more about the mythological world than the other characters.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the actor bringing something to the part that the writer didn't.
Just a confidence that he's like, I know. You might not, but I know.
Yeah, like, I know more than you know.
This little clandestine meeting with Nemesis there, where it's like
beautiful.
She goes from being real stilted and forgetting words in her lines to being like some Russian spy.
Yeah.
I would watch that movie. I love it so much.
I love the effect too that like I think they were trying to make it seem as if like they were having that conversation in the underworld, but it appeared as if they had just literally gone to like in a subway station, gone over to where the red lights were, and just filmed by the fence, and we're like,
you know what though,
this works. It was fine. Yeah,
it actually looks a lot like when in The Young Ones they do cutaways to different scenes. They'll be like, here's a scene that's happening in hell or whatever, right? That's what it looked like. Where it's like, yeah, we don't have a budget. What we have is a dark room and an iron gate and
that's
some red
all
lights.
you need.
So like follow up with a scene of Icarus played by Alexei Sayle or something.
Yeah.
Scouse legend.
I will say though, John, to follow up on your point about Arnie looking weird in a suit, once he gets a visit from Pluto, he's wearing a jumper. And I was like,
yep,
no.
For our American listeners, they know this by now. It's a sweater.
A sweater. But it's one of those things like, Arnie, I don't think like any clothes would suit you at this point of your life. And it's,
you have to be shirtless.
Yeah. it's just so big and it's so bright white, and it's just that 70s hair, and it's just like, that is not a look, man. I'm sorry. Like, who am I to judge? But I am judging you.
And
I'm
you know
sorry.
what? I'm against show-offs, but if you've worked on a physique like Arnold's, just get your body out. Just do it.
I mean, I think people, quite frankly, would appreciate the view. They'd be like, that is an impressive bod that guy's got going on. So
it is. Whether or not you, as we discovered in Batman and Robin, whether or not you find it attractive is a separate issue. But it's impressive.
Yes,
It's true.
that was our big question. Because sorry, Omar, you weren't on the main show. We tried to get you on with, but you sorry, unfortunate scheduling conflict. But
it didn't work. And then I later saw Kiri in person. And I was like, that's hilarious.
But that was our question for the season about like Arnold Schwarzenegger, sexy or no? Like where would you land on that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, one of those two.
Very few people said yes.
Yeah, he was like much less than Jack Nicholson. So
I think people are afraid of commitment in today's day and age.
I think you pressured people into thinking Jack Nicholson was attractive. I think
I
that
agree.
was
Niall,
you.
he's not sexy.
And I got further attacked on this week's You Must Remember This with Karina Longworth, where she had a whole thing about her thinking Jack Nicholson wasn't sexy. Like, come on. Like, I can't even reply to this. What the hell?
I think it's just you, Niall.
Exactly.
I think anyone who's feeling themselves and has found a way to communicate their inner self externally, that's sexy. Whether I'm attracted to that person or not, depending upon their
This is
soul.
like such
But
a
in general-
debate kid answer. This is such a debate kid answer.
No.
It's like, let me say things that sound like they're profound.
No, I totally agree.
Should a
I
border
agree.
exist? I mean, a line, technically speaking, when you think about it, exists in the mind. No.
Something can be sexy and it not necessarily be your thing.
Yes.
But and that jumper might be sexy to some people. It is not to me.
No, it's no. I think that one's universally neither.
But it's very of the time.
But so Arnie is still Hercules is still wooing Deborah Loomis. At one point, he gets roofied in the movie. They have to enact the whole plot line of like, you got to take away his powers. So it gets a Mickey slip to him. in
Yeah,
his
not
drink.
great.
Yeah.
Definitely not great. But also, I was surprised that it happened so quickly. Like, I looked away after they were like, oh, I'm going to poison his drink and he'll become mortal. I looked away for a second. And then I looked back and it had already happened. I had to rewind.
But is that at any point in any of the Hercules stories? Because the fact that it also features in Disney's Hercules is like, so that must be
not
like
even
one of.
at all.
Holy
No,
moly!
no.
Because the bear does feature, right? Because that seems to be a recurring thing. Oh, you have to have Hercules fighting a bear.
man in a bear suit, yes.
Yeah. Because I know they usually will have like, you have the 12 feats and stuff like that. But like, I kind of thought like,
famously called the 12 feats. There's no
But I
other
can-
name for them.
Of course not, no. Niall's 100% accurate.
but I just kind of assumed like, it must be like he loses his powers at some point, and then I'll be like,
No.
that's just one of the famous stories of Hercules or something. But
The closest thing that happens is that, like, at some point he's kind of an indentured servant to this woman, and they have like an interesting relationship. I really like their relationship. They wore each other's clothes and just, like
I'm into this. This sounds good.
swapped sort of the performance of gender roles, and it's just like this period of years where they kind of just chill out and have a nice time.
That's an absolute dream right there.
that's not often you hear about Hercules just chilling. He always seems to be just in the middle of starting some crap. So it's like,
We need more of those like 90s X-Men, just them hanging out at the pool situations. You know what I mean? For Hercules, of just like him and Psylocke.
Just relax.
I've been rewatching I've been going through all the X-Men movies again. And
the
just those
movies.
little,
Oh my gosh.
but there's
I think
little
it's the cartoons.
slivers. Like there's little slivers though. Most movies where it's like just them in the mansion. It's like I could just watch this though. Just like
Right? I love that vibe. It's my favorite vibe.
yeah, you just got to go. Elliot Page is somehow a teacher now. It's like I thought they were a student there about 5 minutes ago, but no, apparently they're them and Colossus are now teaching physics or something. It's like,
I'm into it.
okay. And then like, Patrick Stewart's just down the hall doing something. Like, oh, all right. I would happily just watch
I'd watch the hell out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a teen soap set. You think that should be that's the pitch? It's just like a teen soap set in this school. No, Magneto has to come every damn movie, and there has to be something.
Let's be honest with ourselves, okay? Because there's a lot of good stuff in those movies, or at least in the early ones. But
Sure.
But the best part in any X-Men movie is the bit in X-Men 2 before Stryker's men attack the mansion. And it's just Logan wandering around in the middle of the night.
Having a beer, right?
Yeah. He goes, well, no, there isn't beer because it's a school.
Having a root beer?
It's like explicitly in the dialogue of the film, but
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
okay.
I'm coming to drink a Coca-Cola.
But Iceman's awake and Logan's awake, and there's that kid watching TV because he doesn't sleep, because if he slept, presumably, all the power would go out in New York State, which famously has never gone badly. But
Pluto's son, yeah.
Of course.
I'm just saying, that's the best part of any X-Men movie.
My only thing that hangs me up on that bit is because there's a lovely little bit where Iceman cools down Logan's root beer,
Yeah.
but he blows into it, and it's like germs, dude. Like you can just touch it.
No.
Oh, that's what
literally
you're
just tap it
thinking
with your
about?
finger.
I'm thinking about the sexual tension.
Oh, there you go.
But I just remembered it is only rivaled by that part in the first movie where you get the montage of the kids like playing basketball and stuff.
Yeah. Well, this is unfortunately not X-Men in New York, though. As much as I would love to just talk about X-Men now, but
I'm
maybe
sorry,
some
when
other
you bring
time.
up X-Men, it's a danger zone. I will talk about it forever.
It's a danger room. But,
Well, you mentioned Herc had been roofied, though, and it's because he's been challenged by another strong man. And
was Monstro the Magnificent?
but the thing that got me was as well, like, it's on a variety show, a talk show. What is this show?
I felt this it felt like it wasn't a real TV show. It felt like this is some guys in the street corner of like in a subway pretending like they're having a competition and somehow tricking people into paying to watch it.
Like
or
that
something.
guy in Camden in London who was like, "Come with me, I sell punk trousers." And it was up some random alleyway, and I was getting a bit worried. But it turned out when he took me up a weird staircase, he had thousands of punk pants.
Punk pants.
Yeah.
It better be punk pants with a Z. I'm telling you.
When I asked loads of people, they were like, "Oh yeah, the pants guy. Yeah, I know him."
But the guy hosting, because you have Monstro the Magnificent, and then I was ecstatic to see the guy hosting it. Did any of you recognize who that actor was?
No.
That guy is, I think his name is Richard Hurd, and he's been in a ton of stuff. He's actually in Get Out very recently.
Oh,
He was in all the President's Men, but to me, he was instantly in my mind. It's like that's George's boss from Seinfeld. It's like when he
Oh
worked
my
for
God.
Mr. Wilhelm. When he worked for the Yankees, he had his immediate boss was Mr. Wilhelm,
No
and then it was
way.
And then when he wouldn't deal with Wilhelm, George would have to go to Steinbrenner, which is the back of Larry David's head or whatever.
that's amazing.
But it was weird to see because like, you're so used to like, oh, nobody in this beyond Top Cat and Arnie are famous, and then this random bit part, it's like that's freaking Mr. Wilhelm from Seinfeld. What the hell's going on?
How come when I say no one in this movie is famous except for Top Cat and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Omar brings up a whole list, but you're allowed to say it?
No, it was just timing wise. I was gonna go through the whole rant again, but I was like, we have to blast through.
Host privileges.
But that said, are we gonna really reject zombie royalty?
Hercules then begins to the feats. Speaking of Seinfeld, the feats of strength begin, and he's not quite as strong as he used to be.
No,
and it does one of my favorite Arnie moments, not just in this movie, but perhaps in his entire career, of like when he fails to lift it, and he just kind of does this little like,
shucks. Shucks.
Just, sugar.
It feels quite real, I thought.
It does feel like that is kind of like maybe they gave Arnie lifts he couldn't weights he couldn't lift, so he's just like, yeah, you can't do it, man. And he's just like, oh my God, they actually got me this time.
Well, also, like, what's the weight that he fails on? 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
1,000.
Is that? Can people lift that? I genuinely don't know. I can probably lift about 5 pounds. I'm a weakling.
I can't really conceptualize what a pound weighs.
No, exactly. Same.
I'm stuck in the kilos sort of sector.
Like some of the bigger... I'm going to go back to wrestling again. Some of the biggest wrestlers I've ever seen in my life would be like, 500 pounds at most. So this is 2 of them?
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head. Can people lift that? Listeners, let me know.
The closest thing I've seen to it, and maybe probably it doesn't actually equate, but I remember in the lead up to Captain Marvel coming out, there had been a video of Brie Larson pushing a Jeep.
pushing the Jeep.
Pushing a Jeep up a hill. And I was like, holy crap, that is insane.
Well, I'm not insulting her, right? Because that is impressive. But lifting and pushing are different.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
true.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of people who will get into the muscle groups, all that is completely different. But that's the closest I can equate to it. It's been like, pushing a car up a steep incline.
To compare, I just looked up how much does a taxi weigh, and it weighs between 1 to 2 tons. And I just did the conversion, and that means it weighs between 2,000 pounds to 4,000 pounds.
Oh.
So earlier in the film, we see Hercules tip of cab, but we don't see him lift it. So
He also grabs that forklift that's driving away.
He does stop the forklift, and he goes, "What a chariot! Where are the horses?"
Yeah.
I love also when magical
line.
creatures, which is, I don't mean to be offensive to anyone in terms of like theological bases, but just like fantastical, extra normal entities come to our Earth and are mystified by certain things. I just think that's very funny when they're just like, how could this work without a horse? I'm like, y'all do so much.
Yeah. That's still one of the finest moments in any Marvel movie is Thor storming into that pet store and being like, give me a horse, a saddle to ride it.
Your biggest dog, then.
It'll be fine.
Oh. But yeah, so Herc, he actually loses to Monster of the Magnificent.
Well, he's been drugged.
Because he's but a man.
And he's only a man. He can only do what he can.
You can only lift 750, I think.
Oh, whoa, that's terrible.
I have to say, though, the competition scene, the editor in me is like, this could go. A lot of this. It felt like I was just watching an actual competition.
Oh, yeah, it went
in real
on about
time.
10 minutes too long.
Yeah. After a while, you're like at what weight is he going to go, okay, I can't lift that? Like, it feels like you've gone through like 10 of them here already.
They also cut between... we know that they have other angles because they cut to like the Helen and her father, the professor, watching. So we can cut around in order to describe that time is passing. We're moving from one thought to another, right? A cut is a thought. A cut is a decision. A cut is an emotion. Instead, there's like, he lifts it, and then it just cuts to like a wide shot of like, all right, now we're doing... And I'm just like, oh... This is you're
So
just
many
blasting
times.
us through time. This is jarring. This when people are like, I want to write something like David Lynch, that's what you do then.
Yeah.
you just break editing convention and you're there, Like,
That'd be great if they had like that chariot race at the end just had like a close up of Arnie's face superimposed in the background throughout the entire thing.
just ominous whooshing noises.
That can be the title of this episode.
But speaking of chariot, that chariot race, that's where we come to that point now. Pretzi kind of urges him like, we gotta get out of here, man.
We Pulp Fiction it up, right? Where he's just like, you can't be here, man. We're in a lot of trouble. Although I don't know if they know necessarily. Well, it doesn't matter because the mobsters are like, we have a lot of money running on you.
Well, that's the thing. Pretzi knows, like, the mob are backing you, and you failed, so they're gonna kill us.
Yeah, Pretzi, like the good friend he is, like he's Herc's boy. He's just like, oh yeah, I've got your back, man. We have to get the hell out of here right now. So, yeah, and so we get this baffling chase in a chariot, which I have to say, I set it off in the green room before we started. That sequence is very flawed. But the idea of it, the image of like Arnold Schwarzenegger as Hercules on that chariot going through the streets of New York, I get that. And like that should be like a really classic comedy image.
I agree.
It's a real eye-catching, like that works. Like it feels like they had that poster first.
Yeah.
And they're like, we can make a movie out of this somehow. And then they're like, oh, okay, you got like $50. There you go. That's all you get for it.
Yeah, $50 per permit.
And
the
a
permits
weekend.
cost thousands of dollars. Yeah.
But it was at times I was like, this is the energy's here now. It's getting into that kind of like that Blues Brothers, finale kind of vibe, where it's like, yeah, there's loads of crazy craps is happening now.
That's true. It also made me think of Blazing Saddles a little bit.
Oh, the end, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, but as I have to remember, like, are there any particular highlights from the chariot race, though? I just remember being so enamored by it happening.
The whole thing is fantastic, let's be honest. And they go through the park. Is this Central Park? What park is this?
I think
it's
that's
New York.
only...
I feel like there's only one park big enough
in
for
my
a chariot.
mind, that's Central Park, yeah?
Yeah, they didn't have the cab fare to travel to other locations, so everything, Olympus, everything is in Central Park.
Washington Square at one point? I might be wrong.
Oh, see, you know more than me. I don't know.
Also, Central Park, I just got to say, Central Park, not that big. I'm just going to go ahead and say this as a Californian. I'm going to say this as an Angelino.
Yeah.
I know there's like a rivalry. It is Griffith Park is the biggest.
I've heard
city
this.
park
I've heard this so many times. I just need you to know.
I went to New York and they were like Central Park, and I walked through it, and I was just like, that's nothing.
Wait, so
I've sat through this speech like 3 times.
So it sounds smaller then.
One time
Niall, you'll get
left.
this than here.
Yeah.
Sefton Park, because Sefton Park here, you can walk it, but it's quite a walk.
If you try to walk it with a 1-year-old who insists that she will not get back in her buggy, let me tell you, it is going to take you a while.
There you go. You get it.
Oh, man. I will say, though, this brought to mind, too, one of my favorite things I found out about this movie, and I think in my heart I'm going to call it this from now on anyway.
Oh, I'm so excited.
The original title of this was Hercules Goes Bananas.
Oh, even better. Even better.
That's right.
You know what?
Yeah?
I was just that was the end of the
You okay?
sentence.
Oh,
That
you
was
know
the
what
whole
period?
thought.
That was
I
just
guess I
the
do
end of
know
the whole
what.
episode. We just
No,
cut the
thank
episode
you.
there.
It was you know what ellipses, and it promised more, and it didn't deliver.
That's all you need. You know what?
Yeah, the listeners know.
They know.
Hercules Goes... that's a way better title than Hercules in New
But it
York.
also sounds like there's going to be a monkey.
Maybe originally they had a monkey, and they're like, they had to cut the monkey.
Didn't they briefly show a gorilla during the horror movie Zoo sequence?
Yeah, I think so.
For about half a second.
Maybe they were worried that Arnie was going to try to beat it to death.
Pummel the face in him.
What's a bear-based food? Like Hercules goes salmon? Nah, it doesn't quite work.
Oh.
Honey.
Hercules goes honey.
Yeah, that's it.
That's good.
Hercules and Winnie the Pooh together at last. But I think they need to, because the only other Goes Bananas I can think of course, is Herbie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Herbie Goes Bananas. Why isn't it used more? Like, we could have had Batman Goes Bananas.
Yeah.
The
What
Terminator
I would
Goes
give.
Bananas. Like,
Terminator goes bananas. Freddy goes bananas. Freddy 14. Freddy goes bananas.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I would watch that in a heartbeat. Although, to be fair, I'm pre-sold in all Nightmare on Elm Street crap anyway. So.
Yeah, even if I hear this is the worst movie ever, it's like, oh, I'm watching it.
That's what you just come out and be like, we've made another Freddy movie. Oh, well, I bought the ticket already. It's like, don't you want to hear the pitch? No, I don't need to hear the pitch.
No. This one's a nightmare. Correct. I know what I'm getting into.
Well, that's the thing. when people diss, like the Star Wars sequels, or I heard, I enjoyed it, but people were insulting the new Matrix, right? If someone came up to me and said, "Do you want to be in the new Star Wars? Do you want to be in the new Matrix?" I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." I don't need to read the script.
100%.
And then you get
100%.
You get that script, and it just says the front page is "The Empire Goes Bananas."
Great.
And you're like,
Oh,
thank you, God.
What a relief.
The Emperor goes bananas.
I gotta.
Robert Eggers out there, I know he's worried now. They've spent so much money on the Northman, and apparently it's not doing well. Not too late to recall all the posters and just put "Goes Bananas."
Northman goes bananas.
And everyone will be like, I gotta
in
see
that movie,
this.
Northman kind of does go bananas.
Let me tell you though, right? I'm a big fan of his. Big fan.
Yes.
But there's never ever going to be a world where his movies are mainstream.
No.
No.
The whole thing is, it really brought to mind the situation when Drive came out.
Yes.
And they were promoting it like, this is like the Fast and Furious.
No,
It's
it's
like,
not
no,
at all.
it is not. And I've seen Aver saying, like, this is this generation's Gladiator.
No.
And it's like, that is not the vibe of the
In
Northman.
general, in general, I think like I have two general notes for movie going. I know that's the wankiest thing to possibly say, but one is studio based and one is audience based.
Yes.
The studio based one is stop being like this is the time for this thing that it's clearly not.
Agreed.
When they're just like this is a time for Dune to be a big story. I'm like it's Dune. Like you know what you're talking about. You know what you're getting into. Like this is why is Dune underperforming? It's because it's the nerdiest story.
Exactly.
Like,
it's going to appeal to like 10% of the movie-going audience,
right?
which I am part of. But you know.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I watched it.
I watched
I'm
it.
a
I loved
big old
it.
nerd.
But like people I work with were like, "What the hell is that?"
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's just like, why aren't people into this? Like, you already answered your own question.
Yeah.
It's Dune.
Yeah. But I mean, the obvious question is the obvious. Like, just go at Paul Atreides goes bananas. There you go.
Paul Atreides goes.
He goes bananas in the second book.
Paul Atreides goes desert bananas. Yeah. And the other thing is for audiences, I've just heard this a lot, and then we'll return back to the movie. But just consistently, and granted, I'm in the snake pit of it all. Here in Hollywood, California, entertainment capital of the world. But when so many people go like, it's just not what I expected. Like they walk out of a movie, they're just like, it's not what I expected. If you say that for every third film you watch, that's a problem with your expectations. That is like the way we run science experiments is we compare variables to constants, and with this one, I think we're starting to see the emerging pattern.
Yeah,
and that was my thing with The Matrix, where people are just like, it's not what I expected. Yeah, that's what you said about every other film you watched this year. So. So this like pretty much gets it back to where he's reclaiming his powers, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, we're pretty much at the climax now, where
like it kind of just happens, and Zeus is like, "Oh yeah, my boy."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can't get over the roller coaster of Zeus's sort of opinions during this bit where he's like, he needs to be punished. Oh no, he's gonna be hurt. But he needs to be punished. But what if we're good to him?
He can't be weak, not my boy.
That's the bit I'm confused about. He's like watching it through his what do we call this thing? It's like
the Palantir.
It's like the Lord of the Rings Palantir, you know. And he seems to be like going, yeah, kick some butt.
I mean, I do enjoy like because then all the other gods go down to help, and at one point Zeus comes back and he's like, "Where is everybody?"
Yeah. I also love that we get another moment of an Ascended extra where we have Venus, who has said like 2 lines since we found out that she's Venus.
Yeah.
And then she just has her little thing where she takes Mercury aside and she's like, we can do this ourselves. We don't need Zeus. And it's like this very empowering moment. And it's like, where did you come from?
I mean, it's a proper full-blown Deus Ex Machina. It's like, how are they going to get out of this? Venus now. You know, it's a Venus Ex Machina. She's going to step in.
Yeah, you know. And
she just needs to tell Mercury, who's already down there and could have helped, just like, we need to actually do something now, Mercury, instead of just taking a helicopter down and then just leaving again.
Well, and in this fight as well, you know, because the mob catch up to them, Herc fights them off, but there's too many. They come down to help him. You know, you get Atlas and Samson come down.
Of course. Classic Greek hero Samson.
Classic.
At this point, you might as well be like, Samson comes down, Superman shows up.
Yeah.
The Terminator walks in. But every single actor in this fight looks like they're about to laugh.
Yeah.
And the entire fight just has the vibe of a gay porn movie.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I really feel like
you could apply that to a lot of different moments in this film.
100%. This is a
when
gay
he's on
porn
the
without
ship.
the sex, basically. They've took the sex out.
I mean, it reminded me very much, actually, of the end of Stay Hungry, which I don't know if you guys are aware, but a mere 6 years later, Arnold won a Golden Globe for his acting in a movie called Stay Hungry.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Good for him.
But the climax of that movie features a bunch of strong men breaking out into the street
And having sex.
and just doing like beating people up and like having a little strongman show. But you watch it, like that's just all of Arnie's Mr. Universe friends.
Yeah.
He got a role, right? And they're like, yeah, that's 100% what happened. It's just this is Mr. Universe, but this also feels like he's like, oh, I got a couple of pals who want to be in the movie too. Can they do anything? It's like that guy can be, I don't know, Samson.
Right.
He can be, I don't know, friggin' Yogi Bear or something. I don't know.
Atlas is a good god to be playing.
Yeah. Also, we do see an Atlas statue earlier in the movie. They stand and kind of marvel at.
And it's
Yeah.
criticized.
It's a poor likeness.
But as we
Gee,
come across.
Herc, you just make these jokes, and I never tell when you're joking or when you're being serious.
Were you dropped on your head?
But like going through all those Batman movies, minute by minute, we saw a lot of goddamn Atlas statues.
Oh yeah.
So,
I
mean, that is a recurring motif.
Atlas is
throughout
a cool god.
Yeah.
God is a strong word.
Okay, yeah.
I like the way that was the one. Dale's like, "Oh, cool's apt, but God, I'm not having that."
I gotta put my foot down.
in the realm, shall we say?
I mean, yeah.
Connected.
So anyway, Hercules ends up winning the fight. His
It all
powers
works
are
out.
back. Everything's fine. And then he has this nice scene at the end where he goes to the top
Empire
of
State Building, right?
Yeah, with him and Pretzi. You're like, all right, I'm finally going to consummate this relationship and finally get together.
Oh, yeah, I was waiting for it. Let's be honest.
And then I was actually outraged to see Pretzi just turns around and Herc's just gone.
He gets Batmaned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I bring this up? I've written down here, right? I was devastated. No goodbye to Pretzi. How could he do that to him?
Yeah. I mean, there is the radio goodbye, but it's like you could have just been like, all right, Pretzi, I have to go somewhere right now.
Yeah.
But you stay here and then walk around the other side of the building.
Maybe that's why people love that ending of Terminator 2 so much, the goodbye to John Connor. Because like Arnold's like, I've been
closer.
getting crap about not having a goodbye to Pretzi
Oh.
my entire career.
So
we
it's
have
so-
to make this work.
It's so Poochie died on his way back to his home planet. Like, it's so...
It does feel, like Herc's gone. There you go.
I feel as well like that whole radio scene, that is a post-production thing where they're like, yeah, people really thought we really should have had a goodbye between these guys, but clearly Arnold wasn't available because they just used the dubbed voice over the radio.
In-world explanation, and I've had this in my back pocket for this entire episode, is that Helen and Helen's father, the professor, watched this happen. Because why did just those two go up to Empire State Building by themselves? I feel like we saw them together. So I feel like the whole cadre was going.
I don't think
And
that's
they
a
were
true
just like-
statement, but you keep going.
And I am like, and then they saw that Hercules just like vanishes out because he's like, hey, Dad, I want to go home. And he vanishes, and they're just like, oh, poor Pretzi. And then Pretzi goes and sits, and they're just like, we could technically hack the radio. So then they like bust into a radio and communicate with him back. Because the thing is, they can hear him. Like, he's speaking through radio. That's not how radios work.
No.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Dale, but Hercules doesn't have like radio hearing powers, right? That's
I
not
think
one
the
of his. Like,
implication that the electric storm that Zeus caused in order to zap Hercules back up. I think he's using the
Creates an
electrical
open-
storm to create interference with the radio signals and get his message through. Because they also say the message isn't going directly to Pretzi. It's literally
It's to
just
everyone.
overtaking the broadcast. And it just happens that Pretzi had his radio turned to that
A
station.
sheer coincidence.
it's like a Zod-like message that's beamed to the world. But
By a very posh gentleman.
But there's a real it's such a simple storytelling 101 kind of thing though, of like, okay, so this arrogant asshole god comes and he goes and he has an experience that would humble him and he makes a true friend. And everything about classic storytelling was to indicate, so they have to have an emotional goodbye at the end and Hercules has to be changed.
yes.
And it seems as if he's not changed. He has no sentimentality to this guy. He just ups and gets the hell out of there. And they had to add in a scene of him actually saying goodbye because they didn't realize at the time, oh yeah, we probably should have done that.
Well, the one change, which is my big problem with this movie, is that I can't explain what the message of this film is.
Right.
Because randomly at the very end, out of nowhere, Hercules just kind of looks to the heavens and is kind of like, yeah, Zeus, you were right. Sorry.
I'll come home
you
now.
knew what was best for me. I'm going. Bye. What's that saying?
I mean, so what his experience was, he wanted to go down to Earth because he was bored. He ended up going there, had a great time up until he got roofied and his powers got taken away.
Had a little
And then
bit
he got
of
him
a
back.
scare, a little bit of a fright, and then he was like, you know what, I want to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Sorry,
is-
Dad,
that's-
you were right. Apologies.
I mean, I guess it is just like listen to your parents.
That's a terrible message.
Yeah,
My
it is
dad's
terrible.
full of
Like,
crap.
it's-
I don't want to listen to my dad ever. He's an idiot.
No, but maybe this is supposed to chip into the inner teen inside you, John. I mean, like to break down those rebellious streaks.
No, we've never got on. Like I'm Hercules in this situation. I don't understand why has he changed his mind all of a sudden? Nothing that bad happened to him.
Here's my pitch, I think. I think that this is actually Zeus's story.
Oh.
We spend more screen time with Hercules, and I know it's named after Hercules because the movie is called Hercules Goes Bananas. But I think that it's actually Zeus, because Zeus undergoes a change of heart, and here is my ultimate argument as to why this is a Zeus film and not a Hercules film. Hercules going to New York is actually like the thing that influences Zeus. Zeus is a reluctant hero. Zeus is going to have to undergo
just the
a lot of his
catalyst.
beliefs changed. It's just the catalyst for Zeus to undergo this. And at the end, Zeus goes, you know
Zeus
what? Maybe
goes to New
I
York."
should go.
In many ways too.
I love it.
We say it's very like Disney's Hercules, also very like the Little Mermaid.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Like this, King Trident.
True.
So people have argued King Trident really is the main character of
Yeah.
the Little Mermaid. And he's very similar to Zeus, even in his character design in
Yes.
between movies and stuff too. So
Yes.
because Disney's been mining this friggin' Hercules Goes to New York thing for years, and they're like,
I'm
no
telling
one's
you,
caught
folks.
on yet.
This is the motherlode of narrative.
This is when you get a job at Disney, they just hand you the Criterion Edition Steelbook Blu-ray of Hercules in New York.
Of course.
And they're like, study up. This is what we're doing.
It's the most important thing you get when you get the job.
But also, so it ends on a note of like, yeah, so Zeus is going to go down and get into wacky adventures.
No, but you know
and-
what Zeus's wacky adventures are? Is banging more Earth women.
Yeah. Zeus's further adventures are recounted by one Dael Kingsmill. And then
You're
So
right.
what
For a
does
minute, I
Zeus
was
do?
living in a reality where he was just going to have wacky hijinks, but you're absolutely right. He's going down there to get some.
He wants
And it's
some.
very
He wants
upsetting.
more kids like Herc.
And it's,
everyone-
it's made even more upsetting by the visible beard glue. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, we're hoping it's glue. That guy,
Oh.
he could be up to anything up there, that guy. You know, it's,
Well,
he might not be the most hygienic of gods. Maybe
you know.
hygiene is not around.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
No
he's
shame.
actually he's not necessarily known for it according to the lore expressed in this recording. Is there a chance that he's not? Because everyone who goes down there is kind of embodied by their sort of intent and persona, and he seems to be going down as like one of the gentlemen you'd see in Brooklyn, just like playing chess in one of the meridians.
But
in one
that's
of the
how you
parklets.
woo the ladies. You see.
That's a good point.
I've
That is
come
the way to
over
woo the
from
ladies.
England.
Famously.
I'm a visiting foreigner from London town.
An Englishman in New York by Sting starts to play in the background as he floats down, presumably into the water, because Hercules just fell into the water. So I don't think Zeus is like flying to New York. I think he's gonna fall in the
No,
ocean as well.
I think that Zeus is better at it than Herc
Yeah.
is. I think
Zeus
that
knows
Herc
what
fell
to
off
do.
the plane. I think
Could-
Hercules was meant to
could-
stay on the wing, but
And
he
because
fell
Zeus
off.
is used to this, he comes down every other weekend to bang Earth women.
You're
That's
right. He
true.
does.
He's a seasoned plane surfer.
Yep.
But of course, yeah, it is bookended by another oxygen attack from William Shatner's mom. Yeah, she freaks out again,
Yes.
seeing on the other side
This
of the
poor
plane.
woman.
I think she'll just be committed to like a mental health hospital after that.
But
Well, at least this time it was validated. Everyone saw Zeus.
She's
fall
doing a lot
away.
of international flights.
Yeah, what's her
in a
job?
short amount of time. I hate to say
She's
this,
rich
but she's
as
a
hell.
spy.
Oh.
And I hate to say it because now
We went
I'm
in
on the
different
list.
directions.
Okay. Now,
But she's a very rich spy. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, okay.
but
good,
who's
good,
she
good.
spying for? The United States or
Ooh.
the Soviets?
That I literally am
Nemesis.
not allowed to tell you.
Nemesis.
could we also take two that, of course, very recently for the Super Bowl, Arnold Schwarzenegger played Zeus,
Oh my god.
living on Earth. Are we to take it that is a spiritual sequel to Hercules
Yes,
Goes
of
Bananas?
course. Yes.
You
Yes.
know what? I'll take it.
Yeah,
That's Zeus
Think we
goes
find-
bananas. Yeah.
that could be him now. Officially announces his retirement. It's like I bookended my career. I began going bananas in New York, and now I end as my own father. Going bananas in like a pool or whatever was
the
happening.
dream.
We all become
Literally
our father.
dream.
Yeah.
Yep.
But one thing I will say, though, because I've noted out, but one final note I wanted to end on deliberately, because that's a nice way to cap it off, is that, of course, Pretzi, we mentioned, played by Arnold Stang. Arnold Stang featured in a movie called Skidoo, which features Frank Gorshin, who, of course, played the Riddler in the 60s TV show, Burgess Meredith, who, of course, played the Penguin in the 60s Batman TV show, Cesar Romero, who played the Joker
Holy crap.
in the 60s Batman TV show, and that film, Skidoo, was directed by one Otto Preminger, who played Mr. Freeze in the 60s Batman TV show.
Wow.
Everything's connected, baby.
That's insane to me. And you know what? I learnt the word skidoo as a child from the video game Cannon Fodder.
Ah.
Ooh.
A brilliant British video game from... Jesus Christ, when did that come out? 1994?
I thought that was going to be the end of the sentence. A great game from Jesus Christ himself.
Yeah.
Speaking of sons of God,
Well,
Great game from
shout out to the big
Ellipses.
man.
Jesus Christ invented the video game Cannon Fodder.
Add it to the Wikipedia page.
What
baby.
a literal superstar.
That's why we all look up to him, really.
His incredible work with many companies such as Activision.
Yeah. Taught me a lot about video games. Taught me what a skidoo was.
I think I'm pretty sure I learned the word Skidoo like 90% of my vocabulary from The Simpsons.
Of course.
Of course.
My only other note is I have two recastings, right? If you were making this, not right now, but maybe a little while ago, I've got two things. Pretzi, right? If you're going to remake it, I think Pretzi could have been Rick Moranis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good. And the gangster guy, who's coming and hassling them, you want James Belushi.
Ah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Not
You're
Jim
right.
Belushi.
You're right. Take your pick.
I think if they were to make it now, Pretzi's a Buscemi role.
I could see that.
Surely. He is a noted New York resident. Like, that guy, he's lived in New York his entire life, apparently. And it's like, I can totally 100% imagine him out selling pretzels by the
And he's
dock.
good at gabbing, just constantly chatting.
The fast chatter, yeah.
Yeah. Well, why Steve Buscemi has not hosted a podcast yet it is beyond me. But yeah, have you guys got any parting thoughts on Hercules in New York goes bananas?
I want to give an honorable mention to Pluto's cravat
Oh.
Yes.
Very stylish.
and him acting as like a bouncer at the gates to the underworld. I think that those were really good choices.
I love the way there's no kind of seats like set. It's just a gate.
100%. And also I love that he's not like a big strong bouncer.
No.
I just had a flashback to that moment where he's telling Hercules that he's not afraid of him.
Well, he's got magic.
He's not a big strong bouncer. He's more like the officious gay maitre d' at a very exclusive New York bar or restaurant.
Oh, he's completely queer coded. Yeah.
I just think that his performance is legendary.
Oh, curious considering the content.
Yeah, it was a nice choice of words.
I am now either expecting a myth video from you, Dael, recounting the events of Hercules in New York, or a Too Easily Distracted, just analyzing everything about this version of Pluto.
I also have to do a mythology video about Xena.
I'm there. Oh my god.
I remember
yes.
the early days when lots of people would be like, can you do the myth of Xena? And I had to break these poor people's hearts telling them that Xena wasn't actually...
Can I tell you something?
At least, though, you could bring in Kevin Sorbo, Hercules.
But
at some point,
these days, do you ever want to mention Kevin Sorbo?
I mean...
We can't say his name one more time or we summon him.
Oh, no.
But should say, so Hercules goes bananas.
Yes.
It is a whopping 14% on Rotten Tomatoes, but people might remember that Batman and Robin was, in fact, 12% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's ludicrous. That's ludicrous.
So, you know what? Listeners, you know I love Batman and Robin. But also, this movie, right? Okay, it's bad. Okay, it's silly. It's not 12% bad. I would legitimately say I'm going towards like a 40%.
No, if this movie got more than 30%, I don't think it would be.
30.
Okay.
That's not that different. But that I think it's bad, it's silly, it's poorly written. But do I have fun watching it? Yes, I do.
Oh, I think it is a genuinely fun time as an oddity. Like, you can sit around with your friends and watch this and just, like, this is Arnold's first movie.
That's how we watched it, if you remember.
I mean, please do only watch it if it's in a context where you can also be speaking about it, because otherwise you will regret it.
Well, I was going to say we'll head off into the dark, dark night, but I should probably say we'll head off up Olympus.
Yeah, the bright, cloudy cities of Olympus.
Yeah. I mean, me and Niall, we reside in Olympus. We are your gods. We are the greatest podcasters on earth. So we will head back up that mountain and, come and chat to us. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I can't be bothered. You know by now. You all know. But would our wonderful guests like to promote anything, plug anything? Dael, would you like to go first?
I actually do have something to plug. This is wow. Of course, I'm on YouTube. You can find me at Monarchs Factory on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at Daily Dael. And every week, I am on a podcast called the Eldritch Lorecast, where we plan. It's meant to be kind of a D&D news podcast, and we do cover news, but we frequently get sidetracked talking about like the philosophy of game design,
like this show, where we just get sidetracked by nonsense.
Yes, exactly. So it's a really fun time. It's got a great panel of hosts there.
We'll check that out.
Yeah.
And what else have we got on the docket?
I'm Omar Najam. You can find me at Omar Najam on Twitter. And I am on 2 shows currently, I think, when this comes out, or one just wrapped. And so you can go check the whole body of work out. The first is Power Play over at Q Times. And it's a great show. I play a ghostwriter, literally a ghost who is an author. And it's a superhero show. Very, very fun. And the other is called Banesbreak, the Boar Saga, over at Pixel Circus, where I play a little cat pirate boy. And there's a lot of stuff going on there. Lots of mysteries to solve, lots of quarrels with the gods, everything you're used to in this specific episode.
Wow, yeah, it's very, very familiar to people who...
Well, for a second there, I was really hoping you were going to say you played Bane. I was like, what? Oh my god!
Hey,
I can't give it away, but I do play a Tabaxi Bane. No.
Cat? Did you say a cat pirate boy?
A little cat pirate boy.
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Thank you.
And my cat is sat next to me right now. Drusilla approves.
You should definitely watch Banesbreak. It's a good time. It's fun.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
But do join us again. We'll be back soon with more wonderful Bat Minutes hiatus episodes. We'll have something for you very, very soon, faithful listeners. So do join us again on Bat Minute.
We'll be back.